Hanging out here, we're not in a big crowd, so.
You mean on a minute, because I've got to hit this a couple of different times in different places.
You let us know, we'll start then.
Yeah.
Good morning. I'm calling the Lewis Board of Adjustment coming to order at 10 a.m. on March 1st, 2022. We start over. Morning. I'm calling the Lewis Board of Adjustment to order at 10 a.m. on March 1st, 2022. We are here to consider the application of Charles Fletcher. Application V122 at 324 Savannah Road. We have received an application packet for a variance, section 197-92. Before we proceed with consideration of the application, a few housekeeping matters. Order of the hearing elements. The city building official will provide a brief synopsis of the issue before this body today. Representatives for the applicant will present their case, present witnesses and evidence, and entertain questions from the Board of Adjustment. Statements from the public supporting the applicant will be permitted under the time limits to be outlined. Statements from the public opposing the applicant will be permitted under the time limits also to be outlined. The applicant will be given a brief opportunity to submit additional testimony or evidence in the form of a rebuttal, and the applicant and each objector shall have an opportunity to present a brief closing argument before the Board of Adjustment. So the time limits are normally 1 hour to present your case. For opening and closing statements, about 5 minutes, cross-examination by the board, questions that will be asked by us. And then there's an opportunity for comments from the public during this process, and members of the public are allowed 2 minutes apiece for any comments that they may wish to make at that time. Today, we have one of our board members who is absent, but we do have a quorum. And thankfully, we do have our name tags, so you can see who we all are. I was going to make introductions, but that's not necessary because you can see from our name tags who all is present from the Board of Adjustment. So with that, I'd like to turn to Ms. Janelle Cornwell, our city building official. And Ms. Cornwell, will you please identify the notices that were published and posted for this application?
So the legal ad was run in the News Journal on February 14th, the same day the property was posted, and the physically with the yellow sign, and the agenda was posted then again in 7 days in accordance with the agenda requirements. And I can go into the request if you'd so like.
Please.
Okay, so the request is to allow for a two-story structure at 324 Savannah Road. The property is zoned R4H, which is our medium density historic district. The code allows for 1.5 story accessory structures, and they are asking for a 2-story accessory structure. And this would be a request from the attachment 5, which is what identifies the number of stories for an accessory structure, which is at the end of the code, and the definitions, which is 197-106, which is the definitions, which defines what a 1.5 story structure is. So that's what they're asking for is instead of a 1.5 story, a 2-story structure located off the alley for their property.
Can I just ask one question real quick? Was it posted on the 14th on the property and at town hall?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, just want to clarify that.
And the documents that we have before us, Mr. Barrett, we need to read those into the record. Is that correct?
Yeah, so first off, we should probably have Ms. Cornwell sworn. So do you?
You swear that everything you're going to say is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Perfect. And so can we enter into the record as Exhibit A, the notices that were provided as part of the hearing? Any objection from the board members?
No objection.
Okay.
He's got it.
And if we can enter into the record perhaps as Exhibit B, the application and accompanying photographs that were provided?
Agreed.
All right. I think that's all for now.
And I think we have some renderings, some elevation renderings. Can we enter those into the record as
Yeah, those
Those are
can
part of
all
the
fall into
photographs?
the Exhibit B, yeah.
Exhibit B? Okay,
Yep.
very good. Thank you. Okay. At this time, I'd like to invite my colleagues on the Board of Adjustment to ask Ms. Cornwell any questions they might have about the application before us, in case you have any questions about the city code and how it applies to this matter. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Yes, I do. Is this building going to be demolished or moved or just built in place?
So there's a separate request to demolish this building, and that is before the Historic Preservation Architectural Review Commission. So the request is to demolish the building and then build a new accessory structure.
Okay, so that notice of demolish was not part of our
It's not.
business. Yeah, okay.
That is not, you're just looking at the two stories.
Because I was wondering where the 2 car spaces were going to be on the property and along with this.
So this is a variance request for them
For
to get
new
a
cons-
2-story versus a 1.5-story
Right.
structure.
Gotcha.
Questions?
You just took care of my 2 questions.
All right, okay.
I have another question. In the schematic, is there going to be I know there's restrictions on accessory buildings and bathrooms and all that. Is there a bathroom in this building?
I'm not, I don't think so. I think we do allow like a bathroom, but again,
So
for your concern is
It's just
only,
the height.
is
All right.
Yeah.
the 2 stories.
Fine, fine.
So if there's something else that's a building code item, we will address that as part of the permit review.
yeah, I agree that it's probably not material, but under section 19752 accessory structures, buildings and structures, it expressly says shall not have any of the following facilities: cooking facilities, toilet rooms, sleeping facilities. So I think all
Right.
those are
Okay.
expressly prohibited from accessory buildings and structures.
So with that, we'd like to identify the person or persons who are representing this application. So I believe that is you, sir. And if, would you like to step to the podium can you do that with your boot?
Yep.
We can get you a chair with the microphone, but we need you at the microphone so it can be on the record. And at this time, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. My name is Charles William Fletcher Jr. I'm the owner, and I'm here with my wife Dale.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. So at this point, Mr. Fletcher, can you tell us about why you are applying for a variance?
We're applying for a variance in order to get a garage that will serve the purpose of parking cars and storing items within it. The house that we bought 11 years ago at 324 Savannah Road was significantly remodeled inside. There is no storage inside. The attic is a separate bedroom now. We bought this as a vacation home. We love Lewis so much. We're deciding to move here and retire here. So we need the storage area. And today the storage area inside the garage is unusable for several reasons.
So are you telling us that the principal reason is for storage and not parking cars? Or are you telling me that parking cars is, what is the reason for the
Oh, the
need for
parking-
2 stories?
Yeah, the parking of the cars is part of it. And we can't park the cars today in the garage.
And why is that, Mr. Fletcher?
The access doors are too small.
Mhm.
They were built a while ago. We have an SUV and a truck. I don't really expect to put the truck inside, but our SUV won't fit in there. And there's not enough room on the sides. The structure has significantly deteriorated. And so we need to do something with the doors, the windows, and everything else. We John Lester is our architect. We started speaking with him a year ago about various options to upgrade the current garage to get it to be more functional, to be able to park inside of it and to be able to store items inside of it. He's the one that said it would make more sense to move it. There are safety issues with where it's located right now.
What safety issues are those, Mr. Fletcher?
And if you look at the pictures that I provided to you, you can see my truck parked in front of the garage. The garage is located so close to the alley that in order to parallel park in front of it, I have to pull the mirrors in and then it sits on the line of the alley. If I didn't pull the mirrors in, it would sit inside, it would be in the main thoroughfare of the alley. That creates a problem for my neighbors across the alley because in order for them their garage is opposite that, for them to get in, they have to drive around and it's difficult for them to get out of that. So there's a lot of jockeying for positions.
So are you telling me there's a structure directly across from you on the alley, across from your garage? There is another garage across from
That is
that
correct.
alley? Okay.
It sits catty corner. So where the Diamito's house is next to us, it kind of sits opening. So they use that, their easement back from the alley as a way to get into and out of their own garage. And unfortunately, they live in Wilmington and I didn't have their home address and they're seasonal. So, but they fully support this. I've been talking to them for a couple of years about doing this. I also have all my neighbors have support this, and the Diamito said they were going to try and be here today, but I can get statements from them. And Helen, who is our next door neighbor, who's 94 and she has dementia and she's in a facility, her family will provide a statement to that effect if that's necessary.
So if I'm looking at this garage, are you suggesting to us that it's not, it can't be modified so that your vehicle can go inside?
I don't believe so. You can just look at the height of the vehicle and the height of the door and see that the doors are not standard size. They're lower than normal. Again, getting the truck in would be a benefit, but that really wasn't it. We can't put my wife's SUV in it right now, so it's not functional as a garage. Now, we looked at our neighbor's house, and because we thought about putting I need, for this foot and other issues, I need a set of steps if I'm going to get into the access up above. Right now, it's a ladder that goes to the center hole, and there's a picture in the information that I provided that is the only access to the storage area above the garage. In order to get a set of steps to go up, then you either take out one of the parking spaces inside to put the steps that go up there, or you go on the outside, and there's not enough room on the outside to put a set of steps right now because the position of the garage is too close to the mall's house on one side. On the other side, they put the propane tank in the ground, so there's no parking on the other side of the garage. So you have unsafe parking in front, no parking on one side because there's no space, and no parking on the other side because there's a propane tank where any sort of parking space would be. So it's essentially, I have a garage, but I don't have any parking area.
I'd like to invite my colleagues on the board. Any questions about Mr. Fletcher's application?
So I have a question on the zoning. When I drove down the alley and I was coming from 3rd Street, so by the old forge, and as I was coming down, I noticed there's other large garages, 2-story garages, yeah, correct?
Exactly, and I took pictures of them. I was not aware of the restriction on the 2-story.
And then when I got to the end of the alley, there's the Savannah Inn.
Right.
And that has a 2-story building. That's not
Right.
even, I don't know what, so that's your building probably, I don't think it's going to be as tall as that. Is that
Oh,
correct?
no.
So look, can we focus on what,
True, but I just want to make sure. I want
Sure.
confirmation
and
that
maybe
what I
get
saw.
Mr. Fletcher to tell us what is in the neighborhood
Okay.
rather than our observations on the matter. So, Mr. Fletcher, are there other garages on the alley that have similar safety concerns as yours?
I don't know of any other garages that are as close to the alley as mine is, if that's the question.
Is your garage in the setbacks of your property, or is the garage infringing on the alley? Where is it in relationship to the alley, your garage?
According to John Lester, it does not meet the requirements for setback as exist today.
Okay.
And John was the architect for the city for
Okay.
20 years.
So in your plans for a new two-story structure, where would that structure be located on your lot?
It would be centered on the lot so that it would meet the current easements requirements for both sides. And it would be set into the lot 2 feet so that it meets the requirements for setback on the easement from the garage.
Okay. How large is your lot? Do you have dimensions
We
of
have
your
the
lot?
dimensions.
I was
the
looking at-
Survey is included in the,
I don't think I could see the, oh, maybe it's here, 166 feet,
that sounds right.
about that, okay. And the width of your lot, 40 feet? Does that sound right?
That sounds right.
You mentioned you had larger documents that you could provide us, maybe. Could we see those? Because then we might be able to see the dimensions a little bit easier. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
There's 5 or 6 copies there.
All right, let's see. These are the elevations. This is not the. Okay, that's. I was looking for the plat, but that's okay. All right.
I can provide you a copy of the plat. if
So
necessary.
I think it's just a little hard to read because it's so small, but I managed with my old eyes.
We don't have that. Yeah, we do.
It's-
Okay, I see it.
Yeah, it's this little
Yeah.
tiny box right
Yes,
here.
I see it.
Got it? Okay. So let's see, we've asked about the size of your lot. Is there anything about your property that is unique to your neighborhood that is unusual compared to the other properties in your immediate vicinity, Mr. Fletcher?
Our house is older. Our house is one of the 5 that were built in 1900 that are on Savannah Road. So the architecture of that house mirrors the DeMitos next door, our house, and then, and they're really the experts on this, 3 other homes that are on Savannah Road. According to Cindy, our next door neighbor who knows everything, that this structure, that all of these are relatively mirror images in terms of where they were placed and how they were constructed and so forth.
Okay, but our concern today is not your home. Our concern today is the matter of the garage. And so that's really where we need to focus our attention
Yeah, the
in this
garage-
hearing.
The garage bears no resemblance to anything on the alleyway in terms of the other structure or the garages of the other structures of the same era as as 324.
Are there any two-story garages on your alley?
Yes.
Do you know how many two-story
Uh,
garages are
There
there?
are 3 and I took pictures of 2 of them. I took pictures of the Savannah Inn. And I took pictures of a recent construction down the alley. I think the one that you're talking about that's opposite the Ford side. It's on my side. It really mirrors exactly what we're asking for. It's 2 stories. It's a one-car garage, but it has the same things we're asking for in terms of ours, except it has a walkway outside, and we wanted to put the walkway inside so that we can make maximum utilization of the space.
Okay.
That's why I was surprised when I found out there was a restriction on 1.5 versus 2 stories, which neither John Lester nor I knew when we drew this up. Because I'd seen the construction of this other garage go up while we were there.
questions from my colleagues?
I don't have any questions.
Mr. Barrett? Any questions?
I don't think I have anything.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. I think for the
Is there any
moment.
additional information, the plat or anything else that I can provide?
No,
you?
sir. No, I think we're good at this moment. Now we need to invite the public to comment on your application. So you can please take a seat. Yeah. Ms. Cornwell, do we have any folks in the public who would like to ask questions or make comments?
So I would just ask the members who are on Zoom, because we are streaming on Zoom, if
Yes.
they would like to raise their hand. And I know there is somebody identified as March 1st. If they want to speak, they will need to identify themselves by their name and address for the record. And then just, you can put a question in the Q&A or just please raise your hand and we will allow you to speak. It may take a minute.
Sometimes they have to find the button
Yes. Or type the question.
or type of question.
And as of right now, there are no questions in the Q&A and there are no hands raised from the members of the public.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, can I review what we are here to do?
Yeah, so just for the record, there's nobody here to speak in behalf of or against the application. If anybody wants to say anything, you still got another couple seconds here to raise your hand or type in a question. And if not, we're going to proceed forward and we can review the standards.
So the standards and the definitions of how we evaluate variances are the following. That the requested dimensional change is minimal. These are required. That the harm to the applicant with denial is greater than the probable effect on neighboring properties if we grant the variance. The difficulty in question as addressed must be practical and not theoretical. And the difficulty must be exceptional and not routine. Those are the required elements of our decision-making process. And then separate from that, the considerations of what we must look at in making a decision on an application such as the one you presented before us today are the nature of the zone in which the property resides, the character and uses of the properties in the immediate vicinity. If the restriction is removed, if we approve your application, such removal would not seriously affect neighboring property and their uses. And if the restriction is not removed, such restrictions would cause exceptional practical difficulty in relation to the owner's ability to make normal improvements. So those are the elements that, as the Board of Adjustment, we need to consider in an application for a variance. So in weighing these concerns, Mr. Barrett, should we make a motion first or have their discussion first about these elements?
It doesn't matter if people want to make a discussion, if people want to have a discussion first, we can. If we just want to have a motion and then have a discussion as part of the motion, it's
Okay,
really just up to your preference.
so let's have a discussion first, and then we will look for a motion on the matter before us. So the question of dimensional change is minimal. We're looking in this application from having a structure in the neighborhood of 1.5 stories and making it 2 stories. The question of whether that's minimal or not is irrelevant to this matter. The harm to the applicant in denying it, is that something that is appropriate to address here. And the matter must be practical and not theoretical. So, movement of a vehicle into a garage or not able to put the vehicle in a garage when the purpose of that structure is for parking cars seems practical and not theoretical. The difficulty must be exceptional and not routine. And so I offer this open for discussion among my colleagues so that we can thoroughly discuss the application before us.
Well, there are other structures nearby that have 2 stories. And to have a garage that's unusable, I do feel is a hardship. I mean, it's just it's a storage facility, I guess. So I see no harm.
And I think another part of that is that the structure is going to just be visible from the alley there. And it sounds like it fits in with the neighborhood.
Yeah, I drove
So I
down
don't
the
think-
alley too, and I saw the Savannah Inn, and I don't think it'll change things substantially.
So if we were to ask the question in keeping with other structures on the alley, as Mr. Fletcher has testified, there are other two-story structures in that alley. So what I believe you're saying is that it is not one of one. There are other examples of 2-story structures in that vicinity
Yeah.
along the alley. Okay.
I actually walked the alley and unfortunately did want to go on your property and look and to see how sad this building really is. It is sad from the pictures, but I agree with what my colleagues have said. I think it's a minimal change. I think that there is a problem here in practicality of the structure. I also think that it's an unusable building as it currently stands. And I think that I'm very comfortable with moving to a motion.
Sir, would you like to make a motion for
Well,
us?
Candace, I'd like you to do, because you've got the language there that on those, because I think we need to use the right legalese.
So I think that the motion can be really just as simple as moving to approve the variances requested. And then when we vote, we should explain our reasons for the motion. And that's where, we can get into more of the legalese for justifying our vote.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the request for a variance from the applicants.
You need
Okay,
a
we have,
second?
yes, I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
And the chair doesn't normally vote, but unless there's a tie, but I will vote in this matter, aye. And so now we will have a roll call for the reasons for approving the motion to approve your variance application. So may I ask you to please begin?
So I'm going to paraphrase, I think, what is found in the code. So I think the harm to the applicant would be greater than any impact on any neighbors. I think the practicality of the request is obvious in terms of both moving the structure and also creating access for your cars. So I'm comfortable with that. And I don't see there being any real impact on, and the fact that no neighbors have showed up, I think is also, so I'm feeling very comfortable with this motion.
Thank you for that.
I agree with everything Mr. Guru Reynolds said there. We don't have any documents, any letters from neighbors opposing this project. I think the granting the variance will create negligible issues. There are other 2-story buildings and you have a structure that is decaying and unusable. And so I feel very comfortable approving the variance.
I think the absence of opposition to the project is very telling, because having been on this board a while, I can tell you that people in Lewis are not bashful.
Yeah,
if
they're not
pleased.
reticent.
And so For the reasons that everybody has said, I just think it's a good deal. It will upgrade the neighborhood as well as your own yard.
Okay. And now I will give my reasons for approving the variance. I believe that the harm to you as the applicant would be real with a structure that is not able to be used for its intended purpose, a garage to house a vehicle. Your difficulty is practical and not theoretical. The nature of the area in which you live has other two-story structures along the alley. The safety concerns of driving and parking and traveling and traversing your alley are real and not, they're real and very practical. The nature of the zone is residential. So it's expected that you'd have your vehicle there to park and access your home. And so it doesn't appear as though the change in a two-story garage would seriously affect neighboring properties and their values. It would be consistent with that neighborhood. So for those reasons, I voted to approve the variance today. Mr. Barrett.
We're good.
And with that, congratulations, your variance has been approved.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to Lewis.
Yeah.
And we are now closing the Board of Adjustment meeting. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Record quick meeting too.
Yeah.